Welcome to Below the Surface, the podcast where we go beyond the small talk and dive deep into the conversations that matter.
From personal growth to the complexities of human behaviour, we explore the stories, ideas and experiences that shape our world without the fluff.
Expect raw, thought-provoking discussions with fascinating guests and plenty of insights to challenge the way that you think.
So if you're ready to look below the surface, you're in the right place.
Let's get into it. Hello and welcome to episode 1 of Below the Surface. My name is Maureen Joyce.
My name is Kieran Quinn.
And we are here today to just kind of explain a bit about why we set up this podcast and what you can expect from it, I suppose, going forward. Would you agree, Kieran?
Yeah. And just kind of give people a platform just to, hear our stories, hear our guest stories. Maybe you could resonate with what you hear. You might be struggling with something in your life that you might hear on the podcast that someone else might have been going through, that you could get tips, tricks or strategies that might be able to help you through what you're going through. So we're just trying to bring awareness to different modalities and just get on guests with real life experiences, I suppose.
Yeah, so if we think back to how this all came about, from my view, we were just in the gym. I remember I was in training with you one of the days and we tend to have these kind of deeper conversations ourselves. And we were talking about how it's kind of started how we don't really like the pub scene anymore ourselves, and that there wasn't really an awful lot. Find it hard to find people that kind of liked what we were into, and we found, we align very much and we're into like a lot of the same things and have a lot of the same interests. And setting up the podcast, I guess, I remember that day when we were thinking about setting up our free community like Fresh Air and Flat Whites. And then I said to you one day about coming on to my own coaching podcast, and you kind of like, do you remember that? You got into a bit of a bit of a flap, like, what do you mean? You're not getting me on that. But then we said, like, will we set up a podcast? I think we were just kind of talking about it, like, imagine if we had set up a podcast and we got all these cool guests on, and it just was like a vision. And then we decided, like, well, why don't we actually just do it?
Yeah, like it was, like you said, like it was complete spur of the moment. Like it was just, we were just talking, chatting, messing about kind of, and we were just like, fuck it, like, what if, like, like, why not, like, and we just rolled with it then. We kind of just, Maureen's a powerhouse then when she gets an idea into her head, like, so it just went from there. And like she had such a big she had a lot of following on Instagram, and she had like done a lot of talks and stuff with a lot of like people that have, very, very experienced in the fitness industry and like had real life kind of issues and stuff that they had talked to Maureen about. So Maureen was just saying, like, look, I can reach out to some of these and we'll just see how it goes. And I suppose here we are now.
Yeah.
First episode in.
And it's cool to think of like what it actually can become, and the idea of all of these guests that we already have booked in, like they all have such fascinating deep stories, and even for ourselves, I think we will learn a lot from talking to these people, but I think the guests will actually learn a lot about themselves, and it's good for them to be able to share their story and to be able to have those kind of conversations, because I think some people are very, I don't want to say some people, but a lot of people are quite closed off to having like deeper conversations. Everything can be quite surface level, whereas I'm just allergic to that shit. I'm like, I don't want to talk about, I just would rather, you go into a doctor's office or whatever and you're just sitting there on your phone. It's like, well, yeah, I would actually prefer to do that than just talk to somebody about the weather or something that's of no meaning whatsoever. But I think now I'm really excited to even for us to be able to like do these episodes ourselves, and like we have a lot to share and we have a lot of experiences and our own struggles that will help people. But to be able to bring on these other guests and have these thought-provoking conversations and like just chat about different things that you probably don't really talk about in a normal day-to-day. Now I know we talk about these kind of things when we get together, and I suppose like that's really the premise of all of this. It's like we tend to have these conversations, and why not publicize them? You never know. There's obviously is other people who want to hear about it or hear our opinions on stuff, and there's going to be people that don't want to as well, and that's fine. You can unsubscribe. But yeah, it's really exciting. Like, it's an exciting project. It's really cool to be here today, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing where we can take this podcast, really.
Yeah, like, I mean, there's definitely a persona of, like, don't show too much vulnerability, I find, like, and I think, like, with the guests that we get on, like, if people can see that these people can be vulnerable, it might give them, like, a platform to be vulnerable. And, like, do you know, you could change a lot from just kind of realizing kind of what's going on in your life, or just take a note, do you know? So, like, I feel like it's going to definitely give people a platform to be a little bit more vulnerable in a kind of a world, I suppose, where we're kind of, we perceived not to be vulnerable, or not kind of show really kind of that we're struggling, do you know? We kind of sweep things under the mat and stuff like that, you know? So yeah. I think it's going to really help in that regard.
Yeah, 100%. And I suppose, like, when we were growing up, talking about your mental health or understanding your emotions and stuff like that wasn't, you know, we weren't really taught how to do that.
No.
And I think it's only then, as well, for me, like, as I've started to get older and I started to get into it a bit more and actually want to put the time and energy into learning about it and trying to figure my shit out, basically.
Yeah.
And there's probably people out there that just don't even know where to start, or maybe feel like they're broken or that they're the problem. But I guess if we can share some of our knowledge and some of our experiences and share those kind of stories with other people and help people understand that, okay, you're not actually alone, and that other people go through these things as well, and that it's okay to talk about these things. And it's actually, you know, I'd say talking here will be quite healing for us as well, in terms of
100%.
Yeah, trying to process whatever, you know, has gone on for us. I know yesterday, I was telling you there earlier, yesterday I had like an absolute fucking shitter of a day, and I just was feeling, I was in a total flap, and I had to call one of my friends, like, you know. And it's things like that where it's, like you said, being vulnerable and being open to talk about things. And we don't have to be like just a fucking martyr all the time. No. and acting like, oh yeah, everything's fine, when it's clearly not.
Yeah, and 100%. Like, and as you said there, you were saying you had a shitter of a day, like, you know, but there's always that voice, you know, there's always that voice that's always kind of trying to keep you safe, I suppose. You know, I, like, when we were starting up the podcast, like, there was little murmurs, you know, in my ear, like, oh, you know, who are you to be starting a podcast and all of this, like, you know. So, like we have the choice to, like, if we want to listen to that voice or not, you know. That's our choice. And I feel like with some of the guests that we're bringing on, that we're going to make people, because people aren't aware of how to deal with that voice. Like, that voice can be really, it can be a bit of a fucker when it wants to be, like, you know. So, like, I don't think people fully realize that, how much control they have in how much of that, like, nonsense. And, like, you know, not all of it's nonsense. Again, it's always a protective mechanism. You know, it's trying to keep us from veering. You know, but it can hold us back massively too. Like, and I think with some of the guests that we're getting on, it's just going to make people aware of how they can communicate with that voice in the head, and just kind of let it be a bit more positive, more so than negative. Because, like, you know, we could put as much energy into it and make it positive as we could put into it and make it negative, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. What's that saying? Is it Tony Robbins that says it? Energy flows where your attention goes.
Yeah.
And that's totally true. It's like, if you're thinking about negative things all the time, like, you're probably going to feel fucking shit, or you're just going to notice more negative things.
Yeah.
Now, it can be hard to retrain your thoughts to a more positive place, but it's like anything. It's like going to the gym. You go into the gym on your first day, you're not going to be able to barbell squat 100 kilos straight away. Like, you have to start from scratch. It's the same with this. It's like, you're essentially building a muscle within in your brain of being able to reframe from the negative thoughts into the more positive thinking and catch yourself quicker. And it's like learning any skill. It's not going to happen fucking overnight. It's not a case you're going to listen to one of these podcasts and next thing you're going to be like totally enlightened and after one episode you're just going to be fixed. It's like, it's a constant learning process and being willing to challenge the way that you think and accept that maybe the way that you've been thinking before doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right way. There's other ways to do things, and there's other ways to approach different things. So I think just expanding our consciousness and our awareness and being open to trying different things. And yeah, I'm just hoping that that's really like our vision for this, is to try and just hold that space where we're okay with being vulnerable. We like having these sort of deep conversations, and in turn, if other people can pick up and it can help them in some way, then that's a job well done in my eyes.
Absolutely. And like, going back to what you said there about like everyone has their own bias, do you know? So like again, I suppose it's like being open to other biases, like, you know, and kind of being more open minded, and just kind of maybe believing that there's not just one way to go about things, like, you know.
Yeah, what's that saying? There's more. What is it about skinning a cat? There's more than one way to skin a cat.
Yeah. You're probably not allowed to say that these days now. But anyway, what about? But yeah, no. Just going back to what you were saying about the consistency, like, you know, like, suppose me in the gym, that it's kind of taught me, like, being in the gym and stuff like that, with consistency. Like there was a good analogy of where, like, if you go in and you brush your teeth for the first time, like, do you know, nothing's going to happen. Like, do you know, you come back and you brush them the second time, probably not, you don't want to see much of a change. You brush them 9 or 10 times, but over time, the more you brush them, the whiter they get, like, you know, and you can bring that into the gym. And like the gym has taught me to bring that into real life, do you know? So like the gym has taught me in massive lessons of, in like, consistency is the common denominator in everything, like, do you know, like like you put in a consistent amount of time into any task, like 9 times out of 10 you're going to be successful, like, do you know? So like that was a massive one for me, a massive lesson for me in the gym. And that goes with your mental health as well. Like Maureen said, like you're not going to hear one podcast and be completely, like, do you know, a different person. Do you know, you might get some information from the podcast, but then it's up to you to put that into practice on a consistent basis. Like, and if you do that with some of the information that is here, like, it's definitely going to improve your life. Like, you know, I don't know how you feel about that, Maureen. Consistency always wins.
Yeah, I totally agree. What I would say maybe is, how would you describe consistency to someone? Because I know a lot of people, when they hear the word consistency, they automatically think that word means you have to be perfect.
That's a very good question. So I would consider consistency as in, I always say, if you miss one day, that's fine, write it off, but don't miss 2 in a row. Like, I always say, don't miss 2 in a row. And like, you might have planned out, see, that's the kind of thing I find with goals too. Like, some people plan these goals, and if they don't see the exact what they writ down, then it's a failure. Do you know, I've been a culprit to this massively. But I would say consistency is making a promise to yourself. And so even if you made a promise to yourself, I'm going to do 5 days in the gym this week, and, do you know, life gets in the way. But like, if you manage to get 3 of them in, do you know, and maybe knock that back and maybe try and hit 3 every week, do you know, until life calms down, and then you can add in your 5. I would start slow and just always make, even if it's only 10 minutes, do you know, of the thing that you chose, do you know, even if you just hit 10 minutes a day, or just make it that you don't completely forget about it, or you don't completely throw in the towel when things don't go your way. Like, do you know, like 3 days is better than none.
Absolutely.
Do you know, that would be my way of saying, just showing up every day and just taking a little bit off it. And like, you show up 365 days, taking a little bit off, like, you're 10 times ahead of where you would be, like, if you just threw the towel in, like.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's a common thing for people. It's like this all or nothing mentality. It's like, if I can't be totally perfect, then what's the point in doing it at all? But I think my perception of consistency would be, if I tried to put it into like really simple terms, it's like what you do most of the time. So if you are, say you are working towards a goal, and we'll just use fitness, for example, because that's what we both do. But if your goal was to get stronger, it's like, okay, well, you're going to have to spend more time in the gym than you do out of the gym in terms of trying to get stronger, because you can't get stronger by not going in and lifting any weights. So like that, it's like if you miss one day, that doesn't mean, okay, I'm never going to the gym again because I fucked it. I said I was going to get however many days and I didn't get it. But it's like, if over the course of like a month, or not a month, over the course of 12 months, if it was a thing that you went to the gym like however many days, 10 months of the year, and out of the whole year you only missed 2 months, it's like most of the time was spent in the gym out of the whole months. So we have to think about, okay, just show up, do what you can. It doesn't have to be perfect, but the more that you can continue showing up and just give it bit by bit most of the time, then you will be doing fairly good for yourself. You're
in the 1% there, like if you do, like, because so again, so many people have that all or nothing. There was a very good analogy actually on that. It was so like if you got a flat tire, you would get out and slice the other three, like, do you know what I mean? Like it's do you know why
it's mental when you think about it, because, and I've done this myself, like, you know, I'm not saying I'm a fucking angel in that, because 100% not, but you know, we'll say in terms of food or that, it's like, oh, you had one meal out, and then it's like, oh, I fucked the diet I was on, I'm as well to just eat everything in sight now. Whereas when you're in that moment, in your head it makes sense.
Total sense.
Yeah. But it doesn't make sense at all when you think about it in that context of the tire, or like if you were carrying your dinner from the fucking kitchen to the table and like a I don't know, piece of potato or a chip or something fell off, you're hardly going to go, oh sure, let's fuck the rest of the dinner on the floor. Can you imagine how mental you'd think you were if you did that?
Yeah, like, and you never really think about it like that. No. You know, it's mad really, like that you just completely sabotage yourself, like, you know. And like as you said, it's like it's it seems like the right thing to do in the moment, but like you're looking like when you put the ratio together, like you're looking at maybe what a 2 or 3 minute window there where it feels great, to for some people it could be 2 or 3 days of just completely just hammering themselves because they've fell off track, like, you know.
Yeah. And like we have to think about, okay, well, why do we feel like that? And I guess, you know, when we have some cool guests that are going to help us dive into the mindset of things like that, but it's like we have to come back to, okay, well, why do we feel like we have to live our life this way, or why do we feel like we have to be perfect all the time, or where does that come from, and is it actually serving us? And if we can realize, oh, it's not actually serving us, okay, so how can we change that? And knowing that you actually do have the power to change it, rather than thinking, oh, I'm a complete victim to this now, like there's nothing I can do about it. Well, it's like there's fucking loads you can do about it. It's just being willing to actually surrender, I suppose, and put yourself into trying to change it. You know, if you're kind of saying, oh, there's nothing I can do about it, it's no point even trying, you've already lost the battle there.
And like I find as well, you know, like, what's your lifestyle like? Like, what are your, like, kind of, do you have any passions or any hobbies outside of, like, is us, like, trying to, like, we'll use food, for example, like us trying to get, like, are we trying to fill a gap that's missing? Do you know, like, what if we change something around, or we got a passion outside of, like, this want to, like, what do we try? Like, there's obviously some sort of a gap that we're trying to fill with that, either being, that could be with anything, that could be with, like, substances, or with food, or, do you know, it could be with exercise, it could be with anything, like, you know. So like, I suppose it's just kind of being aware of, like, are you doing too much of the one thing, and, like, what's missing that I need to fill this with overindulging, like, I suppose.
Yeah, I saw a quote, and if you don't mind, I'm going to grab my phone, because I was doing a course last night. I'm doing this course, and I was on a 3-hour class last night, and we talk about self-awareness, and I would consider myself to be quite aware. There's always ways you can get better at these things, but something that came up on the course was one of the slides, and it was a quote saying, awareness is the key. If I am aware, I have choice, and if and I can choose to change if I wish.
Yeah, that's
so
powerful.
I think that's powerful, yeah.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. And like, that's the thing, like, I don't know if it's an education thing or what, but I know for myself, like, I've only kind of just realized it in the last couple of years, the choice, as you said, the choice, like, like, again, maybe doing something that's not going to bring you closer to your goal. Like, if you could just maybe take a breath, take a second and be like, if your mind is telling you no, know the difference. Like, like, you have a chance to say, right, no, I'm not going to listen to that now. Like, like, I suppose that's awareness, isn't it? Like, and just able to take a second to be like, right, why am I resisting this? Like, what's causing this resistance? And I suppose when you realize that, then you're you can put stuff into place to kind of try and beat the procrastination. Like,
yeah, you're better able to make, or you're able to make better educated decisions then. But once you actually believe that you have the power, like, it is quite empowering to become, or to expand your sense of self-awareness, because otherwise I found for myself that I just always felt like this is just the way it has to be. And if you weren't happy with the way it was, and it was like, well, that's going to be a fucking shit life if you're unhappy doing this thing and you think that this is just the way it has to be. But when you realize that, you actually have a lot more power and control over things than you thought before, it's nearly like the fucking whole world opens up, and it's kind of like, whoa, I can do so much more than I thought, and I don't have to just settle for this.
Yeah.
I can change, like, I can create my own life to the way I want it. And it is hard, and you have to, like, definitely have to practice it all the time. And there's always, like you said earlier, that voice always creeps into the background. But I think it's building up the practice of being able to kind of quieten that voice. And yeah, like, we could fucking sit here for hours talking about that. Like, and like that, we've got all these really cool guests to shed some light on all of that, which is really exciting.
Yeah. And like, we're like, I know the podcast is called Below the Surface, like, but like, we're only like, this is only surface level of like kind of the way we're explaining it here. Like, like, it's going to blow your mind, some of the guests that we get on that can actually, dissect what's really going on, like, and like, give people actionable steps to take. Like, it's going to be really, I'm really excited about it. Like, every time I think about it, like, I get that the good feeling, I get the kind of tingles and stuff, like, so I feel like we're doing a good thing with this. Yeah,
we're ready for liftoff.
That's it.
Yeah, so will we just wrap up this episode here, I suppose?
I would say, like, I think that's kind of, we've got the message across, like, of what we're looking to go with. So yeah, sit tight.
Yeah. So if you want to keep following us, you can follow us on Instagram at Below the Surface Podcast. And if you have any suggestions of guests or topics that you would like us to cover, please do send us a DM and let us know. And please like, share, subscribe, all those cool things. And we'll see you in the next one.
Chat soon.